All right, we'll go ahead and get started at 7 o'clock. Thank you all for being here this evening, Monday, February 7th, 2022, a meeting of the Mayor and Council. First, our invocation and pledge. We've got Reverend Charles A. Maxwell here, Jr. from the Breakthrough Fellowship, 1810 Spring Road. Appreciate you joining us tonight. If you'll come forward and lead us in the invocation and pledge, and everybody please rise. I believe the Reverend must have gotten caught in traffic. We're going to have Mr. Welch lead us in the pledge.
I am not the Reverend. Our Heavenly Father, we just thank you, Lord, for bringing us here this evening. And we just ask your blessings upon this city, our police and fire, this council as we make decisions here this evening, Lord, and each and every citizen here. We just ask that these decisions be something that's in your honor and that we do so in a respectful manner, that what we decide is for the best of the city. Be with each and every one of us as we leave this place this evening, Lord, and go home. Watch over us and protect us. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Welch. You might notice that Mr. Wagner and Mr. Pickens are not here this evening. Mr. Pickens had a personal issue to attend to. And Mr. Wagner has taken a job with the City of Atlanta administration as Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Dickens, and he has resigned his position. So we're going to have a vacant position in Ward 2. The qualifying will be March 8th, 9th, and 10th. And the election will be tied in with the primary the fourth Tuesday in May, which is May 24th. So if you know anybody that would like to run, I know we have one candidate here this evening, and I'm going to invite her up before we do anything else. Any candidates, please come forward.
Hello, my name's Latonia P. Hines.
Is your microphone on? Just hit the button on there we go. The button on the bottom.
I think it's on. There we go. My name is Latonia P. Hines, and I want to see if I can take this off for a second. I'm very excited to announce my candidacy for Ward 2. I have been a proud member of this community for over 20 years. I have worked in the Cobb Solicitor's Office, the Cobb DA's office. I've been a public servant during this time, and it'll be such a wonderful honor to be able to serve in this capacity in the city that I've lived in for the last 20 years. So I look forward over the next few weeks being able to let more people know about me and what I can do for this community. So thank you.
Thanks for being here. All right, agenda changes. We have one. Item A, 2022-067, approval to add item 2022-68 for road closure to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to add this to the consent agenda, please? So moved by Mr. Lindley, seconded by Mr. Welch. All those in favor, please vote. We don't have any buttons up to vote, I believe. There we go. If you'll just close the vote. There we go. 5-0 approved. Thank you so much. Item 3 is the mayoral report. Item 3A, proclamation in recognition of Black History Month. Dr. Wheaton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, it's been a really exciting part of this position and certainly thankful to all of my colleagues here with Mayor and Council to be able to celebrate Black History Month formally in the city of Smyrna. It's a really exciting time, really exciting opportunity for me, and certainly, you know, the ability to, you know, really formally recognize the importance of Black history in the city is personally exciting, but I think it's also exciting to the community as a whole. I am so encouraged at the number of great events that we have in the city, a lot of activity that we'll have going on that you'll be seeing more about and hearing more about over the next couple weeks, and certainly encourage everyone to be a part of those events. Those events are for everyone in the community, everyone in the area, family and friends anywhere. Some can be joined virtually, some can be joined in person, but certainly looking forward to a lot of activity there, and be sharing more about that over the coming month. But for now, we'll go ahead and read the proclamation and we'll be following that with the performance, I believe. So, a proclamation by the mayor of the city of Smyrna in recognition of Black History Month. Each year during Black History Month, the city of Smyrna explores the history and culture of African Americans, discovering stories of triumph of the human spirit. And whereas the 2022 theme for Black History Month is Black Health and Wellness, focusing attention on how American healthcare has often underserved the African American community. And whereas 2022 is the 200th anniversary of the birth of Harriet Tubman, an abolitionist and conductor on the Underground Railroad, who was also an advocate for the equal care and treatment of African Americans. Tubman helped found a home for aged and indigent African Americans. And whereas prominent Smyrnan, Miss Fannie Williams, was the single largest donor for the 1948 Marietta Hospital on Montgomery Street, which was the only hospital serving African Americans in Cobb County at the time. And whereas the city of Smyrna strives to improve the health and wellness of its community, in the past year, Smyrna has provided free access to COVID-19 vaccinations and vaccine information to everyone in the community throughout clinics and site visits. And whereas the city of Smyrna continues to work towards becoming an inclusive community in which all citizens are respected and recognized for their contributions to our community, the state, and the country, and the world. Now, therefore, I, Derek Norton, mayor of the city of Smyrna, Georgia, do hereby proclaim the month of February 22 to be Black History Month. Signed, Derek Norton.
Thank you, Dr. Wheaton. This is one thing I look forward to every year, and they just blew us away last year. We had the Tarpleys here. I know that Tamari can't be here tonight, but we've got Mike and Makari Tarpley here from the Breakthrough Fellowship, and they're going to perform for us in honor of Black History Month. Come on up, y'all.
Hello. My name is Makari Tarpley. That's my dad. And we're going to sing another song for you all. Thank you so much for having us. Some have chances, some have choices, some freedom in these states. Colored women, God-filled chances, God-filled choices on our plate. Mama told me there are limits for dark-skinned girls stuck in this light-skinned world. Once in a while, I lose myself in dreams. A silly girl full of silly schemes. Now along comes a man whose skin is white and pale, a shiny fool full of shiny tales. He says he'll make the people hear me. He'll force this world to finally see me. Is he a lie like every other man? Oh Lord, could he somehow help to free me? But Mama told me not to dream big, but Mama lived her life running scared. I'm stronger and I'll fight longer. I'll do what Mama never even dared. Colored women with few chances has to do what she must do. Oh, I will make my colored dreams come true. For this is one colored woman who will color her life.
That was awesome. I don't know about y'all, but I'm cool with just canceling the rest of the meeting and having them perform with it for us all night long. Really good stuff, y'all. Thank you so
Mr.
much.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to, maybe we can go ahead and give them the proclamation, perhaps.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. Come on up, y'all. Come on up to the podium. The next item on the agenda is item C under mayoral report, and this is a proclamation in recognition of Georgia Arbor Day 2022, and Miss Wilkinson has that, and then she's going to sing us a song about Arbor Day. Miss Wilkinson.
I was thinking the same thing. That was awesome. And I also just want to make a note that they are citizens of Ward 5. So, and I'm proud to have them in Ward 5. So with that being said, I'll read the proclamation by the mayor of the city of Smyrna for Georgia Arbor Day. Whereas the first Arbor Day was celebrated in 1872 in Nebraska and a special day for planting trees and has grown to thousands of celebrations in communities across our nation each year. And whereas community partners, families, and friends will join together at local Arbor Day ceremonies to recognize the benefits of trees in urban forest. And whereas trees will be planted across the state, creating a lasting legacy for future generations. And whereas trees improve water quality and quantity, reduce the erosion of precious topsoil, increase property values and economic vitality in business areas, provide shade, cleanse the air, create habitat for wildlife, and add beauty to communities. And whereas trees promote outdoor recreation, which improves human health and well-being and reduces natural deficit disorder in children, encouraging more activity and connection to the natural world. And whereas all of Georgia benefits from forestry, which contributes billions of dollars annually to our state's economy and provides employment for more than 100,000 people. And whereas the city of Smyrna has been a tree city for 19 years due to the celebration of Arbor Day, now, therefore, I, Derek Norton, Mayor of the City of Smyrna, Georgia, do hereby proclaim February 18th, 2022 as Arbor Day in Georgia and encourage our citizens to plant trees, thus leaving a legacy for present and future generations.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkinson. I'd like to invite Julie Barwig up, runs our Keep Smyrna Beautiful organization, and to accept that proclamation.
Thank you. Every year keeps Smyrna beautiful, and the city plant a tree in honor of Arbor Day. This year we will be planting 2 shade trees at Chuck Camp Park. And if residents would like to plant a tree, Keep Smyrna Beautiful has free tree seedlings available through our Adopt a Tree program. Information for that can be found at keepsmyrnabeautiful.com. Thanks.
Thank you, Julie. And thank you, Ms. Wilkinson. Mr. Welch.
I just want to commend Ms. Barwick. I went down to the recycle center here about 3 weeks ago, and I let her know this, but the place looked remarkable. It was almost spotless. It was clean and organized and just looked very nice when I went down there that day. So thank you very much for doing a good job.
Next item on our agenda is item 4, land issues, zonings, and annexations. We have one item that's going to be tabled until February 21st. Zoning request Z21-014, allow rezoning from GC to MU conditional for the development of 163 multifamily units, 20,409 square feet of commercial/restaurant space, and 7,700 square feet clubhouse space at a density of 23.5 units per acre, 6.9 acres, land lot 751 and 752, South Cobb Drive and Oakdale Road, Eris Holdings. This will be tabled until February 21st. May I have a motion to table this item, please?
A motion to table.
Motion to table by Dr. Wheaton, seconded by Mr. Gould. All those in favor, please vote. That's approved 5-0. Item 5, privilege licenses, we have none. Item 6 is formal business. 6A, 2022-046, approval to award the contract for downtown improvements, site and roadway to the lowest bidder, Omchiv Construction, LLC, at 805 Progress Court, Suite A, Lawrenceville, Georgia, 30043, in the amount of $2,438,999.56 to be paid out of the 2022 SPLOST funds. Mr. Bennett, the background, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bids were opened for the previously mentioned project on January 26, 2022. After review and analysis of the 4 bids received, Shiv Construction LLC has provided the lowest bid. The following contractors' bids were received. Shiv Construction LLC, $2,438,999.56. CMC Incorporated, $2,450,772.85. Baldwin Paving Company, $2,532,077.84. And CMES Incorporated, $2,859,967.35. It is a recommendation of Croy Engineering and the Purchasing and Public Works Departments of the City of Smyrna that the contract be awarded to Shiv Construction LLC in the amount of $2,438,999.56.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. This is in Councilmember Lindley's ward. Any discussion? Mr. Lindley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion do pass as presented.
I have a motion by Mr. Lindley, seconded by Mr. Gould. All those in favor, please vote. And that's approved 4-1 with Ms. Wilkinson voting in the negative. Item B, 2022-038, approval to amend the fiscal year 2022 budget for debt service. These are interest payment for the Smyrna Downtown Development Authority bonds, revenue bonds, for City of Smyrna Project Series 2021 in the amount of $658,384.03 to be funded from general fund reserves. Any background, please, Mr. Bennett?
Yes, sir. Subsequent to the adoption of the FY 2022 budget, the city completed financing for the DDA Series 2021 revenue bonds to jumpstart SPLOST 2022 projects and to fund $7.35 million of general fund related projects. The general fund is responsible for all interest payments on the debt since the bond was not included in the SPLOST referendum. There's one interest payment occurring in FY 22 that needs to be included in the FY 22 budget in the amount of $658,384.03. General fund will show a transfer out to the 2022 SPLOST fund for this payment, and the 2022 SPLOST fund will show a transfer in and also show the debt service payment. Approval to amend the FY 2022 budget for debt service interest payment for the Smyrna Downtown Development Authority revenue bond City of Smyrna Projects Series 2021 in the amount of $658,384.03 to be funded from general fund reserves.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. We'll turn this over to our budget chairman, Mr. Travis Lindley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Bennett, for that lengthy explanation. Motion do pass as presented.
I have a motion seconded by Mr. Gould. All those in favor, please vote. And that's approved 4-1 with Ms. Wilkinson voting in the negative. Item C, 2022-023, approval to award Lichty Commercial Construction Incorporated at 3445 Buffington Center, Atlanta, Georgia 30349 for the addition of a unisex family restroom on the east side of the existing Wolf Adult Recreation Center using $188,806 of Smyrna Parks and Recreation funds from Community Development Block Grant, CDBG Public Facilities Balance, and authorize the mayor to sign and execute all related documents. Mr. Bennett, do you have a brief background of this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the City of Smyrna Parks and Recreation requested funds from Community Development Block Grant Public Facilities Balance for an addition of a unisex family restroom on the east side of the existing Wolf Adult Recreation Center. 2 bids were submitted. And Parks and Recreation and Finance recommend the contract be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Lichty Commercial Construction Incorporated, in the amount of $188,806.
Okay. This is in Ward 3. Mr. Lindley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a great addition to the Wolf Center. With that, motion do pass as presented.
Have a motion do pass, seconded by Mr. Welch. All those in favor, please vote. And that's approved 5-0. Item D, authorization for the City of Smyrna to continue as a subrecipient of the Cobb County Community Development Block Grant, CDBG program for 2022, to receive the grant amount of $261,658.67 for public facility projects and administration and planning, and authorize the mayor to sign and execute all related documents. This is just the agenda item that allows us to accept this CDBG money. I'll turn it over to our budget chair, Mr. Lindley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion do pass is presented. This is important citywide, particularly in wards 3, 1, and 5.
Have a motion do pass? Do I have a second? Seconded by Dr. Wheaton. All those in favor, please vote. That's approved 5-0. Thank you. Item E, Resolution 2022-04, approval of Resolution 2022-04 in support of the city's acceptance of a $30,000 grant from the National Fitness Campaign to install an outdoor fitness court, provide match funding in the approximate amount of $155,000 to complete the project through CDBG 20 and CDBG CV funds, and authorize the mayor to sign and execute all related documents. This is going in at Jonquil Park. You want to give any background, and then we'll have Ms. Wilkinson handle this item for Mr. Pickens. Mr. Bennett.
Yes, sir. The City of Smyrna has submitted a grant application to National Fitness Campaign, or also known as NFC, for participation in their 2022 initiative to install and activate outdoor fitness courts in 200 cities and schools across the country. The City of Smyrna was awarded $30,000 from the NFC Grant Committee to install an outdoor fitness court. As part of the grant process, NFC requests a resolution of adoption endorsed by the local governing body to accept and receive funds. The City of Smyrna plans to use CDBG, Plan Year 20, and CDBG CV funds to complete the local match for the project. The court will be installed in Jonquil Park.
Ms. Wilkinson.
At this time, I'd like to move to approve item 6E, RES 2022-04, approval of resolution, again, RES 2022-04, in support of the city's acceptance of a $30,000 grant from the National Fitness Campaign to install outdoor fitness court, provide match funding in the appropriate amount of $155,000 to complete the project through CDGB fiscal year 20 and CDGB CV funds, and authorize the mayor to sign and execute all related documents.
I have a motion seconded by Mr. Lindley. All those in favor, please vote. That's approved 5-0. Item F, 2022-062, approval to award the council chamber audio-video update project to Net Planner Presidio, 3340 Peachtree Road, Suite 1700, Atlanta, Georgia, 30326, for an amount not to exceed $100,000, paid with funds from the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, on Georgia State Contract 99999-SPD-SPD 000048-0001, amend the FY22 budget to establish a project in the ARPA fund, and authorize the mayor to sign and execute all related documents. This one is for our council chambers, so that we don't have a duct tape screen behind us any longer to put the screens up along the columns and make it a lot better for those who are here attending the council members to see what's going on. Is there any other background you'd like to add? No, sir. Okay. This is in Ward 3. Mr. Lindley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a question for Mr. Bennett. What is the timeline for the inflatable wall going away?
Any idea of timeline?
About 2 weeks.
Great, thanks, Dad.
So as quick as they can get supplies in.
I feel like you gave me that same answer about my emails not working. With that, motion do pass is presented.
Have a motion do pass, seconded by Dr. Wheaton. All those in favor, please vote. That's approved 5-0, and Dat said that'll be done in a while. Okay. Item G, 2022-063, authorization to continue the process to solicit proposals for the sale and removal of Aunt Fanny's Cabin Building, 2875 Atlanta Road, Smyrna, Georgia, 30080, until 10 a.m. on Wednesday, March 16th, 2022, where farther discussion will occur at the Committee of the Whole meeting on Thursday, March 17th, 2022, regarding received responses, and the final decision regarding the cabin will be decided and voted on at the March 21st, 2022 meeting of the Mayor and Council. Mr. Bennett, the background, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After discussion at the February 3rd, 2022 Committee of the Whole meeting, and receipt of 2 responses that did not meet the criteria of the request for proposal that closed on February 1st, 2022 at 10 a.m., the council consensus was to extend the time to receive RFPs until Wednesday, March 16th, 2022 at 10 a.m. to allow for more potential proposals to be accepted and reviewed. Upon review, the council will discuss received responses, and the final decision regarding the cabin will be decided and voted on at the March 21st, 2022 meeting of the Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Is there any discussion on this? Ms.
I
Wilkinson?
have something I'd like to say. Thank you. So I'd like to take this opportunity to read a letter that I received from a citizen that really spoke to me about some of the history of the cabin and the women that were involved. And this is another view of the history of Aunt Fanny's Cabin. Imagine 2 women from radically different worlds collaborating on a business that becomes hugely successful at a time when women in general, and minority women in particular, had little power to shape their lives. The real story at the heart of Aunt Fanny's Cabin is inspiring. A few days before the attack on Pearl Harbor, Iselin Campbell McKenna, a wealthy Atlanta socialite who was the founder of the Atlanta Junior League, a service organization, and Fannie Williams, a talented Southern cook who worked for Mrs. McKenna's family, opened Aunt Fanny's Cabin to sell the produce of the tenants on Mrs. McKenna's family farm. Using one of the tenant buildings on the farm, Mrs. McKenna is quoted as saying she wished to provide the means for the workers on her farm to market their produce. This effort was not to exploit these people, but to help them make some money. Mrs. Williams became part of the effort by allowing the store to be named after her, selling her jams and jellies in the store, and being there every day to greet customers. Soon, customers were asking for more, especially those customers who had recently arrived in the Smyrna area because of the new aircraft plant. In reaction to this thriving concern, the business expanded to include a restaurant serving the dishes Mrs. Williams had prepared for the Campbell family as their cook. The business even pledged 5% of their profits to the war effort. It was perhaps Mrs. Williams' profits from Aunt Fanny's Cabin and her skills at fundraising which allowed her to become the biggest donor to the construction of a hospital for the blacks located in Marietta. The AJC's report stated that many of the funds she collected were from visitors to Aunt Fanny's Cabin. On July 31st, 1946, Fannie Williams was the honoree at the groundbreaking ceremony where the hospital was to be constructed. Aunt Fanny's Cabin was a win-win business. It helped poor people make money using their natural skills, it gave people jobs, and it honored the mission of the Junior League. It also demonstrated the entrepreneurial talents of these 2 women using the resources at hand. This collaboration lasted 8 years until Fannie Williams' death in 1949. Just a few years later, Iselin McKenna sold the business. It was the future owners of Aunt Fanny's Cabin who constructed and perpetuated the myths around the building and Fannie Williams for their own profit. Newspaper articles contributed to the myth and stereotype by repeating and adding to the myths. Those are not the people responsible for the negative views of this building, not Mrs. McKenna or Mrs. Williams. I would like the City Council to look at Aunt Fanny's Cabin in this light of its beginning, not the negative, divisive one which the uninformed and outsiders and revisionist historians have promoted. Fanny Williams was a victim of her race and her era. Do not victimize her further by assuming she was unintelligent and a willing victim of exploitation. She did the best she could and remained resilient under very adverse circumstances. Moreover, during her later years, she prospered and became famous with the help and generosity of a woman who had no logical reason to help her. Mrs. McKenna was wealthy and had no need for the money this business generated. She did it because of her desire to help others less fortunate than herself, which is evident in her founding of the Atlanta Junior League and their mission. Do not demonize Iselene Campbell McKenna. This is a historic building whose upkeep has been neglected and whose condition is now used as an excuse to rid our city of this landmark. The story of these two women and the success of their combined efforts is something we should be proud of. This building should be regarded as a symbol to diverse members of our community coming together, using their talents and resources to help each other and even to contribute to the common good. It should not be destroyed or sold. It should sit proudly where it is and be respected and maintained in the spirit for which the business first located in it was conducted. Okay, so at this time I also want to read some of my talking points and concerns, but I need to get a drink of water first, so. Because my mouth was so dry. Thank you. Okay, I want to take this opportunity to express my specific concerns about the effort to remove or demolish Aunt Fanny's Cabin. One, this building is a landmark in Smyrna, but also a type of building which preservation is now recognized as historically important and endangered. This type of building is where many poor Americans lived in the 19th and 20th centuries, particularly in the South. Because these tenant homes were built for and or by poor people, and therefore not with the finest materials, they require protection and maintenance, perhaps more so than the existing fine historical homes of the wealthy. I suspect many of our citizens of Smyrna's ancestors may have lived in such a structure. I know my grandmother and her sharecropper family did. It is a structure worth preserving. We need to preserve the structure to tell the story of Fanny Williams and Iselene Campbell McKenna. Two, the citizens of Smyrna raised funds in the late 1990s in order to preserve this structure and move it to our downtown. I think we owe them the respect of more consideration to this cabin and the desire to keep it. Three, the desire to get rid of Aunt Fanny's Cabin is in stark contrast to the city's purchase and renovating of the Reed House, former home of some of our wealthy citizens. The city purchased the Reed House and property for $1.8 million and then spent another $1.9 million renovating it. Yet we are being told that a few $100,000 is far too great an expense to preserve Aunt Fanny's Cabin, a modest building and landmark with a renown and importance that far exceeds the Reed House. Four, the more I have researched, the more inaccuracies I have found, which have perpetuated for years. This structure and landmark deserves more of our consideration and our time to determine its future. The city should commit to stopping the discussion about removal or demolition right now and allow, one, the time necessary for fact-based research about this structure, two, time for a dialogue with the entire community about the building's future, three, time for soliciting the opinions of professional preservationists and historians, four, time to look at options for the use of the building that the entire community can participate in determining. I would like for the City Council to commit to the goal of preserving it rather than eliminating it. 5, for me, it is disturbing that we are having this discussion during Black History Month and on the eve of Women's History Month in March. I think the efforts of those whose goal is ridding our downtown of this cabin are being short-sighted and disrespectful to the entrepreneur spirit of women like Fannie Williams and Iseline Campbell McKenna.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkinson. Thank you, Ms. Wilkinson. With all due respect, what we're doing with Aunt Fanny's Cabin has already been voted on as a policy decision by this council. This agenda item tonight is to extend the amount of time until March 16th for proposals to come in to take the cabin, remove it from city property, and that is what we're discussing tonight. No matter if you're for this cabin going away or for it staying, 100% of the people involved in this discussion have said that we need to properly memorialize Fannie Williams. I think it's just a fundamental disagreement about whether that structure is how we do it or if we do it in another more fitting way. And I've heard, oh, y'all are just going to put a plaque out or a statue, and nothing could be further from the truth. We're going to have a committee that's made up of faith leaders, community leaders, council members, who are going to bring a recommendation to the council about how to do it, and it's going to be in that spot. The building will go away one way or another. So either somebody will come and make a proposal to take it, or if we don't get a proposal, it'll be knocked down. But either way, Fannie Williams will be properly memorialized in that spot. I had opportunity to speak with Ms. Doreen Grimes today with the NAACP. We were trying to connect last week, but we were unable to meet. She had a conflict come up on Friday. But after our lengthy discussion today and telling her our plans and the plan forward to appropriately memorialize Fannie Williams, she told me she's not married to that cabin, and she is pleased that we are going to memorialize her and put a lot of effort into that. In fact, I invited her to join the committee that will help make the recommendation, and she accepted. So I'm very pleased about that, and I look forward to the committee's work. I'll appoint that committee later this week, and they can get started and hopefully have a good start by the time March 16th rolls around, where we have to make a decision about the proposals that we get in. Any other discussion on this item?
I would like to take a moment to read something that was in the city's document, Notice of Unsafe Structure. And at the end of this document, it has a note, and this was done by the city's Anthony T. McCarter, Chief Building Official, and it says at the end, based on the age of this structure, 1890s, it should be verified before any steps are taken if it is on any historical registers or considered a historical building. And I guess it was my understanding with what we're voting on tonight, the extension, that we will look at the proposals that come in and we will continue to discuss those. And if those are with other ideas, that's what I take this motion to mean, and I'm going to support it because I think it's important to continue this discussion and extend the time period. But to already have decided that it is definitely coming down before we've heard what these other proposals are going to be, I just have take issue with that.
I know that, Ms. Wilkinson, you voted against the council's policy decision, but this is, let's be clear about what we're voting on. We're voting on a 45-day extension or so to March 16th for someone to come forward with a proposal to move the cabin at their expense. Absent that proposal, we will demolish the building. That is what we are voting on. That is the extension. There's no more discussion about what the policy decision that has been voted on by this council is. So I just want to be clear. I want everybody to understand, and I think we're all clear on that. That's what we're doing here. And I know you'd like the outcome to have been different, but the vote happened, and the policy decision by 6 of 8 of this this elected body made that decision, and so we'll move forward based on that recommendation. Mr. Lindley.
Oh, I just want to follow up with something else. I hear what you're saying, but I also feel like that we really haven't given the citizens an opportunity to speak about this. And I mean, in terms of before that decision was made, or that vote was made. But so I also saw a quote recently that meant a lot to me, and it's the most important political office is that of the private citizen, by Louis D. Brandeis. And I guess all this research I've been doing lately, I saw that, and I thought that is so important that we do listen to the citizens in this case. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, could I just make a quick comment? To my colleague, I appreciate your thoughts, though, but to say that we haven't listened to citizens is inaccurate. We had a committee led by Councilmember Lindley, co-chaired by Dr. Wheaton, where it was made up of citizens, and those were public meetings, and there was plenty of opportunity for folks to come in. I'm not saying that was the end-all of communication and public input, but to say that we have not taken citizen input is inaccurate.
Mr. Welch has requested to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to make everybody understand that it's not my preference to move this cabin, but to put it in broad terms, that ship has sailed. The cabin is either going to be torn down or it's going to be moved. This council decided that. I didn't vote for it. I didn't support it, but that's going to happen. This is I'm in my life, I compartmentalize a lot of things, and this is one of them where the vote has been made to move the cabin, and I support this vote tonight to extend it because I want somebody at this point to come and take the cabin. I don't want to see it torn down, but that's what we're voting on here tonight, is to grant an extension or not to grant an extension. And it may not be my preference to move the cabin to another location, but I essentially, I guess, to put it just bluntly, I lost that vote, and you got to move on, and that's what I'm doing at this point. So I'm going to support this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Welch. Mr. Lindley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion do pass is presented.
Have a motion do pass, seconded by Dr. Wheaton. All those in favor, please vote. That's approved 5-0. Thank you. Item 7, commercial building permits. We have none. Item 8 is the consent agenda. Mr. Bennett, can you please read the consent agenda for council approval?
Yes, sir. Item A, MIN 2022-02, review and approval of the January 13th, 2022 Mayor and Council Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. Item B, MIN 2022-03, review and approval of the January 18th, 2022 Mayor and Council pre-council meeting minutes. Item C, MIN 2022-04, review and approval of the January 18th, 2022 Mayor and Council meeting minutes. Item D, 2022-047, approval to use council chambers for a joint Ward 3 and Ward 6 neighborhood meeting, April 24th, 2022, 4 p.m. at Amex Bacon City Hall, located at 2800 King Street, Southeast Smyrna, Georgia, 30080. And item E, 2022-068, approval for a road closure on Windy Hill Road at Burbank Circle for the dates of 02/09/2022 through 02/10/2022 for the construction of the Windy Hill Boulevard improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please? So moved by Mr. Gould, seconded by Mr. Lindley. All those in favor, please vote. And that's approved 5-0. Thank you. Item 9 is ward and committee reports. We'll start tonight with Mr. Travis Lindley.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just it has gone up on social media, and I believe, Jennifer, it's on the city website, the rededication of the Mount Zion Cemetery on Sunday, February 20th at 1:30. Hope everybody can come. It looks great.
Mr. Welch. Ms. Wilkinson.
No report.
Mr. Gould.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Dr. Whedon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a few things that I'd like to say. I didn't want to put my comments in the context of the item that we already voted on, so I wanted to hold them until the end. Just thinking and reflecting a lot about this cabin. We had a lot of work and a lot of conversation publicly and about this, and just wanted to reflect on a few things. There's been a lot of discussion on the future of Aunt Fanny's Cabin. Some people have concerns about the prospect of a potential relocation of the building. Some have expressed concerns about potential memorials and its adequacy to tell her story. And a part of that conversation for me is how we got here. Focus has been placed on the short term. The fact that in the summer of 2021, we heard a report by our staff on the poor conditions of the building that required its closure. The fact that the mayor convened a task force to determine its future. The fact that said task force met several times and had vigorous debate. The fact that it was identified that repairs to the structure would cost between $400,000 to $600,000 to conduct. The fact that we finally came to a full consensus to allow for either relocation or demolition of the building. And important to that consideration was the full agreement that we would take the time to carefully consider how to honor Fannie Williams in that space. And still, for some, we have done the memory of Fannie Williams a disservice. But that is just the short-term history. Upon taking office early in our administration, our new city administrator recognized the lack of facility management plans to understand the health and well-being of city facilities. Through the pandemic, our staff diligently inspected facilities, all of those facilities, to determine their conditions and discovered major concerns with Aunt Fanny's Cabin. These concerns literally range floor to ceiling, driven by many years of neglect. And so the question that keeps coming back to me really is, how did we get here? This question for me is too broad, but instead I'm going to ask 4 separate questions. How is it possible that no elected official in any prior administration, from the time that cabin was placed on the ground until now, ever asked about its conditions? How is it possible that no elected official in prior administrations ever considered that the oldest city building that has not been renovated might need active restoration efforts, those very efforts that my colleague mentioned about in her comments? How is it possible that no elected officials in prior administrations ever asked a question or sought to repair the facility when the cost might have been $50,000 versus $500,000? And how is it possible that no elected officials in a prior administration ever asked how or even if the present Aunt Fanny's Cabin tells the story of Fannie Williams, the actual person? This mayor and council have been asking questions that could have been asked at any moment prior to this administration. Yet they were not, and there was certainly no action. We got here simply because no prior elected officials had any care to ask any of the above questions, and certainly no action that would have addressed these concerns prior to today. Prior administrations allowed this disrepair to get to this point. In the span of exactly 1 month after our inauguration, this administration held its first ever city-sponsored Black History Month celebration. Shortly thereafter, we included a dedicated budget line for Black and Hispanic heritage celebrations in the city. Soon after, we approved the non-discrimination ordinance, the first in the county. Meanwhile, we undertook a restoration and upcoming rededication of Mount Zion Cemetery, a historic Black cemetery, a few blocks from where we sit. And soon, we will hold the first city-sponsored Juneteenth celebration. As referenced in the proclamation that was read, honoring the great abolitionist, that is going to be in her honor at that time. And now we're finally focused on a proper memorial to Fannie Williams. All of these are firsts for the city. One of the most emotional aspects of Fannie Williams' life for me actually was her death. While she was apparently so beloved by the family that employed her and happily used her name to open up a restaurant focused on the revival of Old Dixie, she was buried in Jonesboro in an unmarked grave. This administration, through the work of this task force, was the one that inquired about identifying that grave for a possible marker, which is not possible because of the disrepair of the cemetery. Because of disrepair, we cannot honor her where she rests. And now we stand considering the exact same problem. How do we honor her through the disrepair? Except this disrepair came from years of neglect from this very dais. Prior administrations are completely complicit in not asking any of their questions that could have been asked to appropriately honor this woman. Maybe they weren't important enough for those prior administrations. Those administrations are certainly critical for me, and I'm proud to sit on this dais and ensure that they finally get asked. And I know that I have several colleagues here who are also interested in knowing this history. There is great misinformation about the plan moving forward. I'm excited to continue the work we have done to finally uplift Black history in the city of Smyrna. I'm excited about the next steps to determine how to appropriately honor Fannie Williams, the person, and not the mascot that was used to create in advance of business. Notions of it just being a plaque in a chimney are false and absolutely absurd. Please be a part of the process and the conversation, but also be supportive of the completely shared goal we all have in trying to finally do the right thing. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Dr. Wheaton. Item 10 is show cause hearings. We have none. Item 11 is citizen input. We have 7 people signed up to speak this evening. We'll start tonight with Ms. Shawn Martin. You'll come and say your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, hi, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Shawn Martin. I'm in Williams Park community. I come to you concerned, and I'd like to address some of the assertions that you all have made from the dais that simply aren't true. The first thing is, Lewis Wheaton, you talk about prior administrations and what wasn't done, and yet this administration is interested in demolishing this building. I'm grateful for the prior administration. Tim Gould, you were talking about, I don't have it in my notes, but you had mentioned something about something that Susan had mentioned. The thing is the story that has been told is incorrect. Someone mentioned that the funeral or her gravesite was, or the Campbell family did not have anything to do with her grave, when in actuality they paid for the service. Mayor, I would like to offer that the policy decision before was based on ill-gotten information, not the full span of all the facts, because of many of the things, narratives that you all are mentioning are simply not true. She wasn't a mascot. She wasn't any of these things. And yet from the origin story all the way to where we are now, somewhere in between, we had some bad actors. Why should this 132-year-old building succumb to the narrative that the center of that trajectory? Why? It makes no sense. And many times, all these facts that are kind of swimming around and about, it makes no sense that the council would be the biggest proponent, sounding board for misinformation. I have heard that repeatedly from you all. And I would say and encourage that each one of you decide to think carefully about the decision based on an incomplete picture of what actually happened. That is what Smyrna deserves. Tim Gould, no, the city is not, they're not listening. 1,400 petition signatures for the last issue. 3 council members, 3 community members should not make a decision for 58,000 people. You have grandmothers that actually worked in these facilities, fathers, cousins. Aunt Fanny's Cabin actually brought the community together. It is the story of reconciliation that we haven't even begun to scratch the surface. I strongly encourage you that you rethink your decision because it is based on faulty ground. And what a disservice to Fannie Williams.
Ms. Martin, you need
because
to
she
wrap up. You're
deserves
over
so
your time,
much.
please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will. Thank you so much. So I just encourage you all to please, 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 please make a sound decision based on what Councilman Wilkinson is suggesting, that you bring the community together in a way that actually allows for what happens to Aunt Fanny's Cabin.
Miss Martin,
Yes.
you're almost a minute over. It's time to wrap it up, please.
Not a problem.
Thank you. Miss Pat Burns is next.
I would say that I also have some words by William.
Miss Martin, your time is up. It's time to sit down, please. And Miss Burns
Ms.
is
Corn,
next.
will you please advise the mayor of an email that you received earlier today from Dr. Marchioni?
Miss Martin, everybody gets 3 minutes, and you have gone your 3 minutes, so we will call up the next speaker,
Right.
Miss Pat Burns,
And
please.
community historian has asked me to
Miss-
make a few comments on his behalf. He sent an email. Are you saying that you're not interested in hearing that?
I'm interested in everybody abiding by the rules that everybody has. So
And so
please,
he
3
sent
minutes.
an email. So is that okay? for
No,
Dr.
it's not okay. It's time to
not
sit
okay.
down. Thank you. Miss Burns.
Pat Burns, 10 Concord Road. I'm a homeowner in Corky Welsh's ward. In preparing to speak tonight, I experienced Welshmerits, a great sadness. The Atlanta Brickyard appears to be directly across the Chattahoochee River from Smyrna's Ward 7. The atrocities at the Brickyard are unspeakable, best described by slavery by another name. It has been saved from development by the former Mayor Bottoms, the Atlanta City Council, and a group of preservationists. Smyrna's history, including the race riot of 1938, cannot be erased by demolition of an old cabin, despite its being the final physical piece of evidence. Let me tell you about the Reed House that you all supported very generously. Our former mayor, J. Gid Morris, lived there and called it Sunnyside. Mayor Morris was an avowed racist. His son, the city attorney, was part of the Leo Frank lynch mob. Forgotten by Smyrna are some formidable black men and women. You don't know their names. Their names are Tom McNeil. He was a school principal in Davenport, who also worked as a maitre d' at Aunt Fanny's. A black man who dared run for city council in the 1980s. No one has remembered him with a plaque, a stone, or a school name. Still living is another African-American city council candidate, Joan Aaron. Most of you don't know her either. She ran to have a seat at the table. But in 2003, Smyrna leaders redrew the boundaries on her. These are only two of Smyrna's best, who stood on the shoulders of Fannie Williams. The cabin space can be reclaimed by Tom McNeil, Joan Aaron, Marilyn Blackburn, our first African-American city council member, and Fannie Williams. Reclaim the space. Preservation is power.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. Maryline Blackburn.
Good evening. My name is Maryline Blackburn, and I am a 22-year resident of Smyrna. I come to you tonight for 4 reasons. First, let me thank the council for voting on the extension of time and allowing those of us and other parties to present proposals advocating for saving and restoring the historic Aunt Fanny's Cabin. It is truly disappointing that this council did not find it important to allow the community to weigh in on a matter of such importance. A matter in which we have found that not only that's important to the city of Smyrna, but y'all, there's 31.36% of African Americans in this community who were not aware that you're putting our history on the chopping block. And to know that it's Black History Month, and if it had not been for the Coalition to Save Aunt Fanny's Cabin, she and the cabin would be whitewashed away. If you have not had the opportunity and you do not know who Brent Leggs is, please do. He has a YouTube series, and one of the things that he talks about is appreciating and saving our historic spaces. Second, with the sale of the beautiful green space next to the Smyrna Community Center, what's the big rush of ridding the city of its history? What? Third, why did you not consider the possibility of public-private partnership? I know there are many companies out there who would have loved to have had the opportunity to partner with the city of Smyrna on such a historic building. If you don't know, let me share with you that if it were not for Fannie Williams, there wouldn't be an Aunt Fanny's Cabin. If it were not for Fannie Williams and Aunt Fanny's Cabin, Smyrna wouldn't be on the air right now. And fourth, what would it take for Aunt Fanny's Cabin to remain in place where it belongs, because it is next to the Smyrna History Museum? You see, again, without Fannie Williams, there's no Aunt Fanny's Cabin. And to answer a few questions, Mr. Wheaton, that you asked, I think that Councilman Welch can answer those. Because being a former member of this council, we did speak about Aunt Fanny's Cabin and funding it as well. And the mayor of this city knows that as well. So her proper memorial would include that cabin. You honor her by investing in her, and that's the cabin, Mr. Lindley.
Since my name was mentioned, I guess, Ms. Blackburn, if you talked about it, why was there no action? I think that is the point and the amen moment for me this evening with Dr. Wheaton. You served on the council for 2 years. And Ms. Lisa, I would like us to go back through the committee of the whole minutes and all council minutes for the period of 2018 and 2019 when Ms. Blackburn was an elected official here and this treasure was right across the street from City Hall. And I'd like to know how many times we talked about it. Because I gotta believe if the council rallied to save it, and to be clear, it was in a state of disrepair when this administration took office. That's when that report was fielded.
Mr. Lindley, it is not about the state of repair. It's about honoring something that is historic in this city, and that's Aunt Fanny's Cabin. As I said, Mr. Welch mentioned many times on the council funding to help repair that cabin, and it was ignored. And your mayor will be able to share that with you as well.
He was not mayor,
And with
Ms.
that-
Blackburn.
Oh, we're going to put an end to this right now.
Essentially, there was no action taken for 24 years.
I'm going to take he's not signed up on the list, but Reverend Maxwell, you came in. I know you got caught up in traffic, and I know you wanted to speak, so I'd like to invite you up to do that now. And I hope you arrived to see the Tarpley sing, and because it was awesome. Yeah.
I did. Thank you, Mayor. Reverend Charles Maxwell, 5025 Duxford. I guess the question I want to raise, first, I just want to thank the council for taking the action to extend the time. For those who would like to purchase it, that gives them the opportunity to do so. But I think the question that keeps resonating in my mind is, what are we arguing about? Are we arguing about saving a building of exploitation, or we're arguing about celebrating the life of a person? If we're arguing about celebrating the life of a person, that's not found in the building. And I just want to, just like we're getting away from Uncle and Sally and these kind of derogatory names, to me, the woman has a name, and her name is Fannie Williams. And there's others who have the same name. So I would like us to take more time celebrating the people than celebrating a building that's time has been foregone and is no more.
Thank you. Ms. Montserrat Knowlton, 1367 Poplar Point.
Mayor, City Council, one might say that I am going around and around on another one of this mayor's done deals. But citizenry must speak when things are not right. Well, yes, I want to speak about Fannie Williams' cabin. Council is saying that the building must be torn down for two reasons. Number one, it has been declared condemned. Number two, bad things happen in the Jim Crow era. Smyrna is going through another one of its paradoxes. At a time when it appears that money is not object with mayor and council approving expenditures, at a time when the city is spending over $12 million in the downtown area, we encounter a veto to repair Aunt Fanny's cabin, which we could describe as the historic building that Smyrna city government forgot. Well, those whose fault is it that the building is in disrepair? The city is at fault for not maintaining the building like they should have. It's both the council, the mayor, and the administration as well for not reporting the state of the cabin. As I said, the city is at fault for not maintaining the building like they should have, but it is a poor excuse to say that this happened under a different council. This council has been in existence since 2020. It's been 2 years. The best that you could come, which was to tear it down. No upkeep maintenance for 20 years. Shame on you, City of Smyrna, shame on you. History tells us that events must be preserved, especially when bad things happen, so time does not forget, so those events don't repeat themselves in the future. A perfect example is the Holocaust. It is a part of history, is a part of today's history because historians preserve the concentration camps and the stories that went with them to educate people on things that should never, ever happen again. Wake up, Smyrna. I see bad things happening right now in the city. I see racial overtones in the Smyrna Council decision to let go of Aunt Fanny's cabin. In a town with no black population in the 1950s to a town erasing black history in 2022. Citizens arise, this city is due for a change. Thank you.
Karen Shockley, West Village.
Good evening. Again, my name is Karen Shockley, and I live in the West Village, so I can't vote for any of you. Sorry, unincorporated. I wanted to first of all thank you for recognizing Black History Month. I appreciate that. I'm a new resident here, been here about 9 months, and it's unfortunate that I see people arguing over race relations. It's an indication that we definitely need to do something more. To have one historically Black landmark in a city that I just moved into doesn't make me feel very welcome. And that's why I joined the Coalition to Save Aunt Fanny's Cabin. I do thank you for your extension. I'm just wondering why there's a temporary structure that was holding up the roof was removed from that building, and the day after that, a fiber optics cable was installed, moving the ground and causing it vibrations. I'm questioning whether you want the building to stay up so that we can get a GoFundMe account or some kind of account, because really it's just about finances. It's not about people not wanting the building to be moved. It's about getting the money. So I do again appreciate the 40-day extension. Do you want that building to stay up? If you do, when are you going to put that structure up so that the ceiling doesn't fall in, if that's what it was up there for? Because currently it's not there. And I'd like to ask you that. And why are you making it harder? Again, we are setting up a GoFundMe account. Personally, I would like to know why we're not focusing more, as Pat mentioned, on Black Smyrna residents that have contributed to making Smyrna a better place. I'm questioning why we're not focusing on them. I appreciate the musician from Ward 5. There are people that are historically have contributed to the growth of Smyrna and the excellence of Smyrna, and I'd like for us to focus more on them. William Potts was a gentleman that was unfortunately not from Smyrna, but was from Detroit, a Black man who was a policeman who invented the traffic light. And I'd like for you to take a look at the traffic light in a different way from here on out. He invented the traffic light. There's a lot of Black people who have historically contributed to not just Smyrna, but America. So just remember that Black history is also American history. Thank you.
Russell Smith, 5034 Duxford Drive.
Hello, all. I'm going to come at this from a slightly different angle. So 5034 Duxford, Russell Smith. I understand that the decision has already been made. I really thank some of the folks that have made their comments, and some I agree with and some I don't. But I think the real question I have, and really I just want to get some level of a response, is should the structure known as Aunt Fanny's Cabin be removed, what are the future plans? What are the future plans for the real estate and the process to transact or transform that property? What's next? I want to move a little further ahead versus talking more about memorialization and things like that. So can someone speak to that?
I'd be glad to. On that space where that building sits, which is right next to our museum, we will have a committee of, as I mentioned in my earlier comments, there'll be faith leaders, community leaders, council members, Ms. Grimes with the NAACP and others who will meet and come up with a recommendation to council about how to appropriately memorialize and tell Fannie Williams' story. So that will happen at that space. We will commit resources to that. It is not going to be a plaque. It is not going to be a statue. It will be a well-done memorial, a teaching moment about what she did in this community. That committee is going to be chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Tim Gould. They will be appointed this week and begin their work. And so we will have something that we will be able to tell her story and be proud of in that space. It's not, we're not doing anything with the real estate. We're doing exactly that right there.
Okay, thank you. That's good to hear. The second part about it's really a tag on to the previous lady that was just up here. Are there future plans to have other memorials that allow us to have more than one or none around Black history within the city of Smyrna?
I'll speak to that briefly. I mean, I think, You know, that's something we've certainly talked about. We referenced earlier this morning, good grief, earlier in the comments by Councilman Lindley, the tribute, the rededication of Mount Zion Cemetery, that's a part of this. I was actually having a conversation with Mr. Gould about the opportunity to expand, you know, even that memorial to include some of that as well, right? I mean, I totally agree with a lot of the comments that have been made. This is the exact point of all of this, is to really, and Ben, for me personally, this is a major issue for me, is to make sure we're telling the story of Black history in this city and doing that very completely and much more thoroughly, and hopefully more appropriately. So yeah, those opportunities are there, and with Mount Zion, that's just one step in the right direction. That's another step, I think, in the right direction.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for being here this evening. Our last speaker is Jenny Barty, 4094 Laurel Springs Way.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good to be with you. I just had a couple points that I'm not gonna read, I'm just gonna tell you a couple points that I wanted to bring up. And some of it's already been mentioned, but I'm very concerned that the mayor and council seems to be going along with it. All these rushes to get rid of our cultural identity, all of these things, getting rid of our beautiful downtown that is perfect as it is. Well, now it's not, because now the fountain is destroyed. But it was perfect, and it was such a great thing, and now it's gone. We're gonna have a brewery on our green space. It's sickening. It makes me sick to my stomach. And now we're going to tear down an old building that is fabulous. It's in great condition. Have you been in it? Have you gone to it? It's fabulous. Now, all the furniture's been removed because apparently it's going to be torn down, but it's awful what is going on. I want the structure to be put up there. I think you need to. The city deserves, not just, I mean, all of us as citizens, we deserve to have that home protected from the elements. You've taken down the structure that was supporting the roof. It needs to be put back in right away. Please commit to that. Okay. And I just want to say that I think that the vote should be reconsidered. You may have said that you wanted to vote to take down that cabin, but I don't think you all really want that. I don't think that the majority of you really want that. I think that you must realize how important it is for us to hang on to our history and our beautiful things that have been created and built in the city of Smyrna. We can't get rid of everything. Please don't do it. Take time to reconsider your vote. We deserve, Fannie Mae deserves, her memory deserves, and we all deserve for that thing to stay there, to be rededicated, to be taken care of now. We're not going to worry about what happened in the past. I don't know who to blame. We're not going to blame. That's always the thing. Don't do a blame game. Okay? You all are in charge now. Please don't let it be destroyed. Thank you.
That concludes our citizen input. We have no other business to be brought before this body. We're adjourned at 8:23. Thank you.